Alright guys, welcome back to Unit 5 on Sports and Competition. This is the first reading and we are taking a look at the Preparing to Read section where we highlight the key vocabulary and the definitions for this particular reading, the first reading of Unit 5. So we are going to do the first part, understanding key vocab, reading the definitions and completing the sentences below with the correct form of the vocabulary words that are highlighted there in bold. So I'm just going to read the words to you and then you can see the definitions for yourself. But I just want to dictate them to you just for pronunciation purposes. I also want to point out here in any dictionary that you may use, and the Longman dictionary is the one that I would highly recommend that you utilize, that you can use as a website. It's the Longman Dictionary of Contemporary English, I believe is the full name. But any dictionary that you elect to use is going to have the part of speech. And when we talk about part of speech, we're talking about the type of word it is, whether it's an adjective. ADJ stands for adjective. V stands for verb or an action. N is for noun, a person, place, or thing. And then we have a phrasal verb. A phrasal verb is not just one word, but two or more words, a phrase, which essentially serves as a verb or some sort of action, but isn't just one verb, isn't just one word like compete, but rather as a phrase, two or more words. So I'm going to read these vocabulary terms to you. First one is ancient. 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 Second word, compete. 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 Next word, the noun form of the verb compete is competition. 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 Next word, strange. Strange. Just one syllable there. Next word, swimming. 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 Next is a phrasal verb, two words, take place. Take place. And finally, the last word, throw. Throw. And I know that TH can be tricky. Remember to make that TH sound, especially when it's the initial consonant sound, the initial sound in a word, you want to put your tongue between your teeth. Stick your tongue out a little bit and then put it between your teeth and then gently blow air. Throw. All right, those are our key vocabulary terms. Again, we're talking about sports. So we have a lot of verbs here relating to competition, right? And sports. So take each one of these words, key vocabulary terms, and you're going to fill in the blank according to your context clues, the words in and around. We call those collocations. Collocations are words that are more often than not used in collaboration or within the same context as other words, collocations or context clues. So choose one of these words that you think best fits the description, and then you may need to change a verb or add an S to a noun. Especially for those verbs, you may need to change them so that they fit the context. Let's do the first three together. The baseball game will blank tomorrow at 2 p.m. in the park. So we have a game, and we're talking about time, when it will take place. And then also we have the auxiliary modal will. Will is usually followed by a verb, right? Because we're talking about what is going to happen. So we only have two options. We have either compete, we have take place, or we have throw. Actually, we have three choices. Those three are verbs. We need a verb here because of the auxiliary modal will. Will something, right? Will and then an action. Compete tomorrow? A baseball game cannot compete. Only people can compete, right? Take place, happen. That actually might work because we're talking about when something will happen or take place. So, number one, the baseball game will take place tomorrow at 2 p.m. in the park. And I know maybe some of you are thinking, shouldn't that be takes? Takes place because we're talking about it, the baseball game, but we have will. Whenever we have an auxiliary modal here, then we're only going to use the base form of the verb. So take place is the answer for number one. Take a look at number two. Thousands of people from all over the world blank in the New York City Marathon every year. The fastest runners can win a lot of money. Here's a clue. We're talking about winning. There's a place there. Looks like this also wants to be a verb, since we already have the subject. And throw in New York City. Already used take place. Can't use that again. We have compete. Compete makes sense. People from all over the world. We have a marathon there. That's a competition, an example of a competition. But we want a verb here, compete, because we're talking about winning. So no need to change the verb because our subject is already plural. All right, let's do one more together. Number three, boxing is a blank sport. It was popular in Rome thousands of years ago. So we have the article a, so we know that the answer is going to be a noun, right? We have a or an. A or an is an article used with nouns. So our options are competition. Actually, that's not true. We already have a noun here. So this word is actually going to be an adjective because we already have the noun provided. My apologies. So our two options for an adjective are strange and ancient. And if we're talking about something that was popular thousands of years ago, then that's going to be ancient. Boxing is an ancient sport. It was popular in Rome thousands of years ago. So you're going to continue on the next page, page 89, filling in the blanks for numbers 4 through 7 with the vocabulary list provided on the previous page. And then we're going to use the skill that we talked about at the beginning of this unit, and that is the skill to scan. Scanning to predict content. So before we actually do the reading, I'm going to have you scan it first for some key words. I want you to you're going to pay particular attention to the nouns, verbs, and adjectives in paragraph 1. And you're going to use those noun, verbs, and adjectives to try to figure out what the text is going to be about. So if we take a look at page 90, and focusing on paragraph 1 there, you can see it. We have the nouns, like country or sport, sports, world, sports. We have some adjectives, such as strange. And then we have verbs. Actually, need to continue a little bit further to see some examples of verbs, such as compete and throwing in the fourth paragraph. But we're going to focus on just the first paragraph for right now. And in focusing on that first paragraph, looking at those words, country, sport, world, countries, strange, lots of references to sport. If you had to answer the first question, what is the main topic of the text? Unusual competitions, unusual sports, or popular sports, based on the underlined words in the first paragraph. I think we would agree that it's certainly either A or B, right? Unusual or strange sports. Where do the events in the text happen? Only in one country, around the world, or in a city? They made a few references about world, so probably letter B, all around the world. And then number 3, look at the underlined words again. Types of words are they? More than one answer may be possible. A verb is going to be an action, something that we do. Adjectives are going to be words that describe nouns. Articles are going to be words that come before nouns, like an, we saw in one of those vocabulary exercises. The is another example of an article. Nouns are people, places, or things. And then prepositions we're going to look at later this chapter. Prepositions go before articles, usually, or they're part of prepositional phrases, indicating movement, as we're going to look at in this chapter, location, place, etc. All right, so that is reading 1, vocabulary, and that's pages 88 and 89, the preparing to read section, filling in the blank with the correct vocabulary terms, and then answering those questions based upon your predicting, you're scanning those keywords, and then you're using those keywords to make predictions about what the text will be about.